Hello, you're listening to Dodge It, a Pokemon Rewatch podcast. I'm Will.
I'm Brianna.
And welcome back.
Hi, everybody.
First off, I want to start off by saying we have an apology to make.
We do?
Yes. Because there was something very important that we forgot to do at the end of last episode.
Huh?
We forgot to credit our editor. So, we have our lovely editor, PJ Molloy. We will be leaving the link to his demo reel on YouTube in our description. So, back on topic, what we're doing here is we are watching and, in my case, rewatching the Pokemon anime. We are on episode 2, Pokemon Emergency.
Oh, no.
It came out in Japan on April 8th, 1997. It came out in the United States September 9th, 1998. You can watch it along with us on Netflix. Yeah, I guess we're ready to jump in. Quick, dodge it. And we're back.
Yep, we are back.
So, I thought that was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. I think I liked it a little bit more. I don't know if I'd say more, but it was pretty good compared to the last one.
Yeah. I'm just more judgmental of all these people, because Officer Jenny just automatically assumes that Ash is the one who's taking all these Pokemon, and yet the poster does not show a 10-year-old. It shows 2 adults with blue and red hair. Ash has black hair. And also, she's just saying this so cheerfully over the intercom that, yeah, by the way, so there's these thieves that are taking these Pokemon. I'm like, I'm sorry, why aren't you saying, okay, everybody get in your house, this is what they look like, be on the lookout, I'm gonna do patrols. No, let's make it all cheerful and just say, oh yeah, just be on the lookout. Really? Yeah. Also, does Ash look like the people on the poster? No. And we're going to trust technology over a 10-year-old saying who he is. Really? We're gonna trust tech because Ash is lying to you. Really, Officer Jenny? Does he look like he's lying to you when he's holding his poor little Pokemon in his arms who's really hurt and he's telling you, hey, I need to go take care of my Pokemon, but let's stop and have a 10-minute conversation about how I am not the thief?
Well, maybe we should start from the beginning a little bit. Because we do start off, the narrator gives a small recap of the first episode. And then we cut to the announcement that you were talking about. Where it's Officer Jenny going on the intercom throughout the city to say to be on the lookout for suspicious strangers. And then, as she's saying this, she spots Ash and she's like, obviously this 10-year-old is a suspicious trainer. He's obviously, beat up and holding Pikachu, who's beat up. And she's...
Poster, so, 10-year-old. Poster, 10-year-old.
Yes. And so she, Ash is, trying to run, trying to find the Pokemon Center, and she, grabs him, and she's like, hold up, what are you doing carrying a Pokemon in your arms? Because apparently Ash is the only person ever to not have a Pikachu that, doesn't like staying in his Pokeball.
Exactly. Really?
It's enough to be documented by Dexter last episode that say, hey, some Pokemon don't like it. But apparently it's the first time anyone else has ever seen it.
Obviously.
So Ash explains he's just come from Pallet Town. Officer Jenny goes oh, you're the fourth person who came through Pallet Town today. And it's and then he's all bummed because oh man, that means Gary beat me here. And so he's all bummed out about that. And she does eventually catch on, hey, Pikachu's hurt. And she's like, let me just see some ID and you can go. And now Ash is a 10-year-old and doesn't have ID.
No, he does not.
But she eventually sees the Pokedex poking out of his pocket. And she's like, oh, this'll solve all our problems.
Again, trusting tech over a person's word.
Well, the Pokedex does have his ID on it, technically. He just didn't know that because I guess he didn't pay attention in class or something where they would have explained this to him.
Exactly.
Because that's one of the weird things about Ash is he's the audience surrogate who we're supposed to be learning about the world through him because he's learning about the world. But he's also lived in the world for 10 years.
So you would think he'd know a little more.
A little bit more.
Or just be like, hey, Officer Jenny, I have proof. Here's my Pokédex. Does this have my ID on it? And she'll go, oh, yes, that would show your ID. But obviously, I'm giving Ash a pass because he's terrified of Pikachu being hurt. So that's why I'm getting upset, because I'm like, Officer Jenny, you obviously see this Pokemon is hurt, but your first instinct is to question the trainer, not go, okay, you're still a suspicious person, however, I understand that your Pokemon is hurt, so let's go to the Pokemon Center and get your Pokemon squared away. Then I want to sit down with you and say, hey, I need to see some identification that you are who you say you are. But no, we want to have this whole song and dance before we want to go take care of the Pokemon. No, you take care of the Pokemon first.
But she does agree to give him a ride to the Pokemon Center. She takes him in her motorcycle, and he's in the little sidecar, which I thought was kind of cute.
It was cute.
Yes. And, like, the sun is setting as this happened, and so the Pokemon Center must be a decent ways into the city from where he ran past, because by the time they get there, it's dark. But before they get there, we see a fishing line come and pull the wanted poster off the wall, and it goes up to a Meowth-shaped hot air balloon floating above.
That no one seems to have seen, obviously, because no one else has commented, hey, there's this balloon that's flying around our city. Isn't that kind of suspicious?
Well, the problem is that the one police officer in the city is driving the opposite direction.
But again, it's like, you all have lived in this world for so long, and any weird thing, why don't you look up and go, hey, that looks really weird. And obviously, has no one ever seen the Team Rocket people before you come in? Like, you're not, the blue hair and the red hair is not going to make you go, that's different.
Well, it's an anime, so everyone has weird hair.
Obviously.
Yeah, because, I mean, have you seen Officer Jenny's hair?
Yeah.
Nurse Joy's hair?
Yeah.
They're about the same colors, just different hairstyles.
Yes, but you still would notice, hey, there's these people that are running around in our city that don't seem to be like one of the people that live here. And also, a talking Meowth!
Talking Meowth is pretty out of there, and he keeps making this weird top cat joke. It's supposed to be a play on top dog, and it's funnier to explain it than the joke actually is.
Okay, because I'm looking at Team Rocket when we first meet them, and yes, I've seen a couple of the later seasons, so I know what Team Rocket becomes, but it's like, watching them now, it's like, wow, y'all are way too serious right now. Where's my Team Rocket that's, like, more fun, and just, like, of course has their plan, obviously, but it's like, y'all are so stiff, what the heck?
They start off very, like, serious. They're supposed to be threatening at first. And, like, I think it's a different voice actor for James than the one that we hear
because
for
I'm
most
like,
of them.
wait a minute, that's not James's voice that I remember.
Yeah. But we'll have to see going forward.
Yeah.
So, Officer Jenny gets Ash to the Pokemon Center, and she does the Akira slide into the lobby.
Which I guess Nurse Joy is used to, because she just looks up and is like, you know, we have a drive-thru, right?
Yep. And, like, Nurse Joy's, like, has got a big old smile on her face, and, she's teasing her about it.
Yeah, but it's just, like, you can tell that she's like, this is not the first time you've done this.
Yep. And Officer Jenny explains, this is an emergency. This Pikachu's really hurt. Nurse Joy, like, steps into action and everything.
Yeah.
She calls her
Chancies. Chansey.
And, like, after she's, like, got the Pikachu onto, like, a gurney or whatever, Ash is like, and it's like she notices him for the first time. And she's like, who are you? And it's like,
Really?
who do you think he is? It's the Pokemon's trainer. Why else would he be here alongside the Pikachu?
And again, Officer Jenny speaks for Ash. And I'm like, I'm sorry, he can speak for himself. He can introduce himself, and you, the officer, would just say, yes, I believe him. I've seen his Pokédex. I believe him. We gotta get his Pikachu taken care of now. No, Officer Jenny has to go into the whole explaining everything, and I'm like, I'm sorry, Ash is standing right there. He can speak for himself.
Man. He's also shaken up on his first day, so maybe he just didn't want to speak up. He's not quite the confident person we'll see him turn into. So Nurse Joy takes Pikachu and the Chanseys and goes into the other room to start the procedure to heal Pikachu.
And everyone understands that feeling when a loved one is taken behind the doors in any hospital or doctor, and the other ones are sitting in the lobby room, and there's just that waiting period of, it's like, you know everything's gonna be fine because they've obviously gone to school, they know what they're doing, but it's still like, this is your loved one, you're still worried, okay, something's gonna happen. So Ash's like, oh, And he looks across the room and sees the phone, and he's like, oh, I'll call home, just like kind of settle my nerves, talk to my mom.
Mm-hmm. And so he calls home, and the technology is funny because it's like the 90s version of future technology. And so he calls like a regular old landline phone. A lot of people listening to this may or may not even
know
remember
what a landline is.
But he has like the receiver up to his ear, and like his mom answers on the other head. She's all gussied up in her relaxing stuff with the towel in her hair and the face mask. And then when she hears it's Ash, she like takes
all of it off and
she turns on the video call. But the video call you still need the receiver to your ear. And it's just funny to see what people thought that they would be.
Yeah. And poor Ash, he's feeling down. He's like, I've made a mistake. I can't believe I let this happen. And Delilah's her name, right?
Delilah's her name.
Yeah, Delilah. She's like, I'm not going to let you speak to yourself like that. And I'm looking at Will this entire time while she's giving the whole speech of, I'm not going to let you talk to yourself about that. Because I did that a lot when we were friends. I pretty much built this boy's self-esteem up way high.
Yeah.
And would never let him talk down to himself. I'm like, I'm sorry, you do not get to speak to yourself that way.
Yeah. And so she does a good job, though, just like Brianna did.
Yeah. Didn't really give much of a choice to your listeners, but,
And another thing she notably says is that his dad had taken 4 days to get as far as he did, from Pallet to Viridian, yeah. There's Viridian and there's Vermilion. And in my head, they can get mixed up easily. So I had to take a pause to make sure I was thinking of the right one. And this might be the last time we ever hear about Ash's dad.
Because I'm looking at Will, too, this time with questions like, wait, we never hear about his dad. Like, this is the first time I've ever heard about his dad. And what? We don't hear much about Ash's dad.
It's never shows up.
Okay.
Yeah. And so she's, like, giving him the mom stuff. She's like, have you changed your underwear? And he's like, yes. But it's been a day. Like, it hasn't even been overnight once. He hasn't had the chance to change his underwear. So then they hang up. And so Ash is glancing across the other room as he's waiting around. And he sees on the wall the pictures of 4 legendary Pokemon.
I know I knew 3 of them, but the 4th one, I'm like, why is Growlithe the legendary?
Well, it's Arcanine. So
that's why I'm getting confused.
Yeah. In the Pokedex, every Pokemon has its classification. Like Pikachu is a mouse Pokemon, right?
Yeah.
So Arcanine, its classification is the legendary Pokemon, which I don't know if that's a weird translation thing. I know there was some time where different Pokemon were in the consideration to be classified as like legendary Pokemon. So I don't know if that's a holdover from that or if it's just a weird trick of the translation or whatever.
Yeah.
But it kind of fits that Arcanine could be there along with them.
And what got me too is watching it is the video shows a look close up at the blue one, so that I know is Articuno. But Ash is like, he thinks it's Ho-Oh. And I'm like, no, that's Articuno.
Right.
And I'm looking at Will like, that's not Ho-Oh.
Yeah.
It's Articuno because it's blue.
Right.
That's not Ho-Oh. Why is Ash thinking it's Ho-Oh?
Well, 1, he saw Ho-Oh from super far away. 2, he's never seen Articuno before.
But yet he's lived in this world and doesn't hear like of all the legendaries and all that. Like, wouldn't you think if you've lived there for so long, you would have at least heard stories of like different ones, or at least the color schemes?
Maybe.
Or is that just the asexual ace and me being like, you don't notice the colors?
I don't know.
The aesthetic ace, I should say. I'm trying to say aesthetic ace, but a lot of A's.
I don't know. For some of it, it's probably vague myths and legends. Like, if you were to say, what color is a sphinx?
Well, it would be tan, usually because it has the head of a woman and the lion's body and all that. And
so you'd assume that, but you couldn't know for sure.
No, that's why you go and do research.
Right. But
And you talk to all your people.
Right. But Ash is also 10 years old and may not even be interested in that.
You don't see this, dear listeners, but I'm looking at Will like, I'm sorry, how do you not think of these things? But then again, I have to remember, I am the one, whenever you play the Pokemon games, I'm not really interested in the battling part. It's like, do I have to? I want to study the lore and everything.
But
I'm not really caring about battles.
To do that, you have to catch the Pokemon.
Okay.
Yes.
I go out and catch Pokemon then, and do my research.
Yes. But I guess Ash is in it for something else.
I guess so. I guess it's all the battling.
Yep. I don't know. That's why I like it.
Yeah, well, you're a special case.
Yeah.
I'm dating you, therefore you get a pass.
And so then they get a call from Professor Oak. It's like the computer behind the desk. Ash is like, well, there's no one around, so I guess I'll answer it.
Yeah.
And he goes over and he clicks the button, and the Arcanine picture is replaced with Professor Oak.
Well, technically the back of his head.
Well, the back of his head, but it's weird. For some reason, it decides to project on the wall.
I don't know.
Which I don't know why, but it's fun. And so he goes, Ash, don't you recognize me? And Ash is like, I didn't recognize the back of your head, because Professor Oak had put on the wrong camera for the video call, I guess. And so they catch up a little bit. He had just talked to Delilah and said, hey, who had heard Ash had made it to the Viridian City Pokemon Center. And so they were like catching up and stuff. And he's like, Gary was putting you down. I made a bet with him that if you made it to Viridian without catching a new Pokemon, I'd owe him $1 million. And so then Ash is like, well, I guess money isn't everything. Because he hadn't caught anyone. And
nope.
Professor Oak's all dejected and everything. And then he mentions the same thing. He's like, Ash is like, well, I did see something special. I saw the bird that's on the picture above you. And Oak, like, completely doesn't believe him.
Which annoys the heck out of me. Whenever that happens, the adults just assume that the children don't know what they're talking about, instead of saying, okay, let me grab some paper. What did you see? You saw this and this? Okay. I don't recognize this, but you know what? I'm going to do some research, because there's a lot of Pokemon out there that we don't know about. So you could have seen someone new. But no, we want to go down the route of, oh, that's not real. That's not real. Can you tell your listeners that I don't care for those kind of things?
And Professor Oak says people have searched their entire lives for this Pokemon and never gotten a glimpse. So,
well, they're not an anime protagonist, are they?
And so Professor Oak's pizza shows up, and so he has to go off the phone and take care of that. What did he order on it? Anchovies,
pineapple, and spinach.
Which
I'll do the spinach part and the pineapple, but not the anchovies.
It's like completely opposite directions. We hear from off screen Misty's voice. But before that, we cut to our next segment.
Who's that Pokemon?
This time, the Pokemon is coughing.
Which I said right away. Even though I stared at the screen for a minute, being like, I know that's not Ghastly. I kept thinking Ghastly, but then again, I was just playing the new Pokemon, and I had just bowed to Ghastly. So that's why it was like, still fresh in my head. I'm like, that's not right. That's coughing.
Yep. So coughing is this little...
I thought like a meteorite a little bit that has fumes coming out of him.
It looks kind of like a meteorite. My brain went to like one of those mines, like a...
Oh yeah,
one of those naval mines, kind of.
Yeah.
But it's a purple... Yeah, I guess a meteorite probably fits a little bit better, and it's got like little holes on it where gas and stuff can come out. There's not a ton terribly out of the ordinary in the Pokedex entries. The most notable things that it mentions is how the poisonous gases are just a little bit lighter than air, which is how it flies.
Gotcha.
And that if it's agitated, it can explode.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. They don't mention that in the episode, but that might be foreshadowing.
Let's say, like, isn't that foreshadowing?
Yep. For me, coughing's obviously iconic due to being one of James's Pokemon. Another reason it stands out, it and wheezing stand out, is for one of my online friends is really big into poison type Pokemon, and so wheezing is one of his favorites.
Nice.
Yeah. So whenever I think of coughing and wheezing, he will always spring to mind. Like, he did so much that he made a whole ROM hack of Yellow. I think it was Yellow. It was one of the original games where you could only pick Coughing as your starter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was actually pretty fun. He had reorganized like a whole bunch of Pokemon, gave him a whole bunch of different level up sets and different things to catch certain Pokemon earlier and catch certain Pokemon at weird places with them knowing weird moves. Which he did so by having them especially low leveled for the area. And then normally those Pokemon can't be obtained at those low levels. So it's how he was able to sneak those moves on the Pokemon in the early game before like things like mover learners and TMs and stuff were super big.
Gotcha.
And it was pretty fun. Do you have anything notable that comes to mind with Coughing?
Not really, unfortunately. Yeah. I mean, it's cute, but I don't really have any connection to it. Wheezing is more in my head. I remember wheezing more than I do coughing. So that shows when I kind of entered the watching Pokemon stage was when coughing showed up. Wheezing. Because I remember wheezing more than I do coughing.
Right. Poison types often don't have a ton of space on my team. At least pure poison types like coughing or wheezing. My strategies usually involve super effective types and just that. And poison is really only good against two types, which is grass and fairy. And for grass types, I usually have an overabundance of ways to hit them. I'll have a fire type or a flying type or an ice type. So I don't really need poison unless it comes along with a different Pokemon. And like, that's not to say they don't have their uses, they just don't often work their way into my strategies. So that's why I often don't really have coughing or anything on my team. But if they were on your team, what kind of nickname do you think you'd want to give them?
I'd go like into one of the scientific names. Like I'd actually look up like the elemental table and pick a name like based off like a deadly poison. There is one, and the smell is like there's a candle that is of that smell, and I can't think of it right now. But it's like ATHESINE,
acetine, something like that.
Anyway, there's a candle that smells like that, and I promise it's not deadly. It's actually very nice. It's a nice smell. So often when I make my candle, like, I make my own candles. So I'll usually put, like, a bit of that, because it's a very soft but kick in the head. Mm. So it's a good smell. So I'd probably pick that, just because I have a good association with that.
Fair enough. You'd also go with something like sulfur or brimstone or something like that?
Yeah. Or nightshade.
Yeah, that would be good. For me, when I used one playing my friend's ROM hack, I named it Death Star.
Nice.
Because it was big and orbital, and I knew I was going to try and put Hyper Beam on it. So,
of course.
Because, I don't know if you know this, but Hyper Beam is pretty busted in the first Pokemon. If you manage to completely knock out a Pokemon with it, you didn't have to take the recharge turn. Alright, but with that, I think we'll get back to the show. So we get back, and it's Misty showed up. She's got her bike over her head, and it is charred to all heck.
A crisp.
And she is not happy about it.
Understandably so.
But to Ash's credit, he's immediate like, I will pay for it. I'll help you out with it. I just can't right now because
my Pokemon comes first.
Right. Pikachu's hurt. And to Misty's credit, then, when she hears that Pikachu's, like, really badly hurt, she's like, okay, yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah.
But I'm not leaving your side till you pay me back.
Pretty much. And so, right as they get done talking about that, they always do this, at least in the first season. There's the little picture of the needle and syringe that's over the door.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, that's one of those images that lives in my head rent-free. And so it's lit up because the procedure's going on. As soon as they get done talking, it darkens, and Nurse Joy and the Chanseys come back out with Pikachu.
Yes.
He's asleep on the cart.
He's got a little light bulb on top of his head.
Yep, he's got, like, a light bulb and, like, bandages and wires strapped to his head. And it's, like, blinking a little bit. Kind of like a heart monitor type of thing. But I think that's clever. Show, hey, electric Pokemon are supposed to be giving off electricity. Mm-hmm. This is an easy way to monitor it.
Yeah.
And Nurse Joy says, Pikachu will be okay. It just needs to rest now. The procedure went well and everything. Is like, we can go over to the restroom and you can come along now, Ash.
Yeah. You can go sit with Pikachu.
Yep. And as they're heading that way, an alarm goes off. And it's Officer Jenny's finally looking up and saying, hey, there's a suspicious aircraft in the sky. Be on the lookout for Pokemon thieves. And it's well, we don't know that for sure, but we know it's Team Rocket. Well, I guess they did say it earlier.
Well, they did say their name, so we know it's Team Rocket now.
So they're hovering towards the Pokemon Center, and again, they're talking about how they want to steal all the rare Pokemon.
Yes.
And so then they toss their Pokeballs in through the skylight of the Pokemon Center, and out come the Coughing
And Ekans.
and Ekans.
Which is a baby snake.
Yes.
Baby snake.
Yes. It's very cute.
Yes.
And so Ash is like, what the heck is going on?
And also, I'm sorry, I'm just practical. A Pokeball falling from that height is going to break through that glass. I mean, yes, if they raise the like the height, sure. But just the way the anime showed it, they didn't show like the air balloon was very high up. Mm-hmm. But that's just me being like, well, if you're going to do this, at least show the hot air balloon being higher up so that the force of gravity will make it crash. But that's me noticing these things.
Yeah. Because you would think, like, that would be treated to protect against things like hail.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Other stuff.
But
I guess nothing's Team Rocket proof.
Yeah. Like, they would have broken through it anyway.
Yeah.
But they drop down the Pokeball. The Coughing, like, starts filling up the room with smoke. And so Ash is like, what the heck is going on?
And enter Team Rocket's motto.
Team Rocket's motto.
Which was the first thing that I watched this show, and Will's smiling next to me as I'm saying the motto to myself as Jesse and James and Meowth. Because that motto lives rent-free in my head. No matter how many times it changes, the original is always in my head.
So I think the motto lives in all our heads, pretty much. And so Ash is like, why are you here? And they explain, we're here to take the rare Pokemon. And he's like, you're not taking Pikachu.
Nope.
And at first, they're not even interested in Pikachu.
Which I'm looking at the screen like, I'm sorry, when are you not interested in Pikachu? But then I'm like, wait, this is
the first episode.
This is the first episode, so they still need time to build up their obsession. I mean, strong interest in Pikachu.
Nurse Joy says, you won't find any rare Pokemon here. These are all, like, sick and injured Pokemon. And they're like, well, we're sure there's got to be something here. And so they send Ekans and Coughing to attack them. And Ash, Misty, and Nurse Joy run off into this other room where all the Pokemon are stored in their Pokeballs. And they show that Coughing and Ekans have, like, busted up computers and stuff. And this knocked out the power. But then Nurse Joy explains there's a backup. And they've got Pika Power.
Yes, they have Pika Power, and it's so cute because it just shows the Pikachu's running around in a circle generating electricity. It's so cute.
Yep, they've got a little backup generator of Pikachus.
It's adorable.
And so, like, everything dims for a second, but then it lights back up. And Nurse Joy says, okay, we gotta start teleporting the Pokeballs to the Pewter Pokemon Center and get them away from Team Rocket. And so these mechanical arms start grabbing the Pokeballs, and they put them in this teleporter, and they're going off to Pewter City. Which, if I was someone who had left my Pokemon in the Viridian Pokemon Center, I would think this is a big inconvenience.
Yes.
But we'll see.
Yep.
But then Coughing does show up and, like, bust through the door. And I guess they all show up after that.
Yeah.
All the bad guys do. And so Misty's like...
That's it. You all aren't handling this. I am.
Well, before that, she's like, this is war. Don't just grab the Pokeballs, throw them so we can try and fight them. And so then Ash grabs one and throws it, and it's a Pidgey. And then Ekans is big and scary because snakes eat birds. And scares Pidgey off. And he goes, okay, well, let's try this one then. And he throws another
empty.
Pokeball, and it's empty.
And that's when Nurse Joy lets in this little tidbit. Yeah, not all of them have Pokemon in them. And Ash is like, you could have told me that before.
Yep. And then he throws one more, and it's a Rattata. But it goes about as well as the Pidgey did.
Yeah.
And so then Misty goes...
That's it. You all aren't handling this. I am.
And so...
But she...
Well, before that, she's like, take Pikachu and run. Because clearly she has a plan. And she throws out her Pokeball, and it's Goldeen.
Yeah.
And it flops just like it does in Smash Brothers. Which now, finally, that makes a little bit of sense. Because in my head, the one in Smash Brothers always should have been Magikarp. Because that's the one known for doing nothing but splashing. But I guess that was more of a reference to the anime when it turned out to be Goldeen. That's the useless Pokeball option. But Misty's like completely confident and she goes, well, everyone knows you can't use water Pokemon on land, which is pretty untrue because there's plenty of water Pokemon that you can work on land.
I've seen water Pokemon that work fine on land.
But this is episode 2.
Again, this is it's episode 2, and as you're gonna listen, dear listeners, I think things far in advance, and Will has to remind me, okay, love, this is still the first few episodes. We haven't gotten into that yet.
Yep.
They'll get there eventually, love, but they're not quite there yet.
Yep. And like with the confidence she says this, she's like, Ash, go take Pikachu. She's clearly doing this to distract them, and it was working.
But Ash is just staring like, what's happening? Even though Misty's telling him, get your butt moving with Pikachu now!
Yeah. So eventually he does take off running, and Ekans and Coughing chase after him, and he's pushing Pikachu along in the gurney.
And ends up tripping on Misty's burnt bike that they left in the middle of the floor.
Yeah. As Coughing and Ekans are rearing up, they are in the room with the generator. And so the Pikachus all jump over the wall, and they land on the gurney with Ash's Pikachu.
Yes.
And they go and they zap Jesse, James, and...
Meowth.
Nope, Jesse, James, Coughing, and Ekans.
I thought Meowth was in there too.
I don't think so, because then Meowth shows up and is like, I'll take care of this little mouse.
That's true.
Yeah, so I think Meowth was just out of the way. Because as Meowth shows up, our Pikachu wakes up. And luckily, we can tell the difference because he's got the cute little light bulb and all the accoutrement and stuff to show, hey, this is the Pikachu that you should recognize amongst all these other Pikachu we have to draw.
And he's talking to Ash, trying to communicate with him, I need more power. And Ash gets it after a little bit, but at first he's like, what? What are you talking about? What are you telling me? And
so Ash props up the bike and starts pedaling, and the little headlamp thing is one of those that charges when you pedal. And so he starts pedaling, and Pikachu jumps on top of it, and it supercharges Pikachu's Thunder Shock, which I thought was very clever.
It was very sweet, yes. And cool.
And so he zaps Meowth, and he zaps the rest of Team Rocket, and it's like very powerful.
And foreshadowing.
Yep. It's powerful enough that this one Thunder Shock is kind of on the same level as all the other Pikachus Thunder Shocking them before.
Yep.
And so it does them, and it is reaching Coughing, and like we said, when he agitated Coughing, it explodes. So it explodes, and it's like this huge like blast that the camera cuts to outside where Officer Jenny is, and she sees like, oh dang.
There's this plume of flame that just goes up.
And she says something about fireworks that I don't really remember. But it's clear like, hey, the Pokemon Center is like kind of toast.
Yeah.
They cut to Team Rocket, I think. Unless they do something before that.
No, it does cut to Team Rocket up in the sky in their air balloon, and they're burnt to a crisp, and and that's kind of when they start saying, hey, this Pikachu is a lot more stronger than we thought, so maybe we should be focusing on this little guy.
He's like,
and again, typical fashion, the hole gets blown into the balloon, and they swirl around, and then they go off into the distance.
Yep. Notably, though, they don't do the trade lock.
They don't do the trade lock yet. I'm like, but what do you mean they're not doing the trade lock?
Yep, they don't do the trademark. We're blasting off again.
It's like, what the heck, guys?
I guess they didn't come up with it yet. And so then it cuts back to, like, the next day. And, like, it's obvious, like, this Pokemon Center is rubble, pretty much. But Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny are sitting there.
Just standing there, like,
on the computer.
Like this one computer that lasted this entire explosion.
Yep.
And they're just sitting there like, oh yeah, it's every day that our Pokemon Center gets blown to bits.
Yep. And they're communicating with the Nurse Joy in Pewter City and saying, Ash, Pikachu, and Misty are heading your way, but first they'll have to get through Viridian Forest.
Dun dun dun. But Officer Jenny's like, they're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
They're pretty tough. They're gonna be okay.
Yeah. And then we hear Misty scream.
Yes. And that's when I remembered, oh, right, Misty doesn't like bugs.
Yep. We cut to them in the forest, and...
It's a little caterpie!
Yep. Ash is like, oh, it's actually a Pokemon, which there's like... It's a weird distinction. Like, Misty doesn't like bugs, period. And she says, I don't care if it's a Pokemon, which implies that other bugs also exist.
In this world.
Yeah. Which I don't know if we'll ever see any.
Yeah, we don't see any, but yet we're supposed to believe that they exist. Which, I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying we never really see any evidence of it because we're focused on the Pokemon.
There is a notable thing later where it's not bugs, but it's other animals that we do see.
That's true.
But we'll get to that in a few dozen episodes, I think. And so then Ash, does he do the hat thing?
He does. He does do the hat thing.
He pulls his hat back and he pulls out a Pokeball.
And
the episode ends with the Pokeball midair as he's trying to catch this Caterpie. And so now we get to our... ratings. So first category is the cute category. So like the relationships and stuff.
Well, obviously, it's very sweet how worried Ash is about his Pokemon and making sure Pikachu's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not too thrilled with how the adults are treating Ash in this episode because they're really treating him like a kid. And yes, I understand he is still a child, but you're still willing to send this 10-year-old out into the world. I think you kind of... No, you don't kind of. You need to show him some respect and go, hey, you may not know everything of what you're doing, but we can help you, not put you down.
Right. And then also, I think... One, it's clear that Pikachu trusts Ash at this point.
Yeah.
Like, we saw the turn at the end of last episode, but this is, like, maintaining that.
Yeah.
It's obvious that Ash and Misty are going to be stuck together for a while.
Yeah. So their dynamic is understandable. You know, they kind of met how he stole her bike, but she's still at the point of, you obviously put your Pokemon first. You care a lot about them, so you're not so bad, but I'm still not going to let you get off the hook of, you burnt my bike after you stole it.
Right.
And even Team Rocket's relationship right now, even if I'm like, they're way too serious right now, they're clearly very close. James and Jesse are obviously very close. They work together well, and they obviously still care about each other. We see their relationship, you know, grow later in the series, obviously, but just the first time I see these two, I'm like, okay, I can believe it. They work together, and they trust each other.
Yeah, the whole episode, they're giving each other, like, bad guy 90s jokes.
Yeah.
I think one of them is that they got my bad side. That's what James says. And then Jesse goes, well, they captured the real you then. And he's like, good. And it's like, yes, they're obviously villains that were written in the 90s.
Yes. And then when they do the thing that besties do when they talk at the same time, it's very sweet when they do.
Yep. I think for cute, I'm going to give it a 4 because I don't think the things with Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny bugged me as much as they did for you. But like, it wasn't perfect, so I think I'm going to give it a 4.
And I'm gonna do a 4 because the cuteness of the Pokemon outweighs my annoyance at these two adults that are putting down Ash, because they at least by the end of the episode say, yeah, this kid's capable and we're just doing our jobs as the adults, even though we jumped the gun.
Next is cool, which is like the overall coolness of the episode.
Well, it was cool watching Ash get on the burnt bike and generate electricity, so that's cool. And the Pikachu's Pika Power, that was awesome.
Yeah.
And even Team Rocket being awesome, like I said. Even though they're way too serious right now for my taste, I'm like I still think they're cool.
They make up for that by, hey, they're being treated as an actual threat rather than just straight up comic relief. And I think that's worth something, at least in these
very much
first episodes. I can't think of anything terribly uncool.
No, not. I mean, like I said, the only uncoolness for me was how they treated Ash, but that gets better obviously by the end of the episode.
Right.
So I can forgive it.
Yeah. So I think a 5 then, I guess. If I can't find anything wrong.
I can't find anything wrong besides that, but it gets fixed by the end, so I'll give it a pass.
Yep. For the smartness, for the writing of it. I think it was a fairly decent episode too.
Yeah.
It moves the plot forward. It doesn't have any like inconsistencies or anything yet. Anything that feels wrong is stuff that we have from our biases from later episodes.
Right.
So I can't really fault it for that.
No.
So I guess this one gets a 5 as well.
Yeah.
And then for the tough, technically there wasn't really a lot of battling that went on.
Not necessarily. I mean, the toughness, I guess, for me would be how tough Pikachu's attack is. Mm-hmm. That, for me, is pretty tough, because that's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, and, like, for the points that I wouldn't give it, because there's not really a lot of, like, tactical battling or anything, I gotta give them at least a little bit of credit for the supercharged bike move.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's what kind of put the toughness up for me, was that move.
Because we haven't had, like, a traditional battle yet, I think I'm just gonna give it a 4, though.
Yeah, I'll do 4.
Yeah. And then for beauty, there wasn't anything that really stood out.
Not really.
Yeah. They didn't have any, like, especially eye-catching scenes or anything.
No. So, again, for me, it's the cuteness of the Pokemon. We'll put it at a 3.
Yeah. I think 3 works because it's not like anything, there wasn't any, like, animation errors or anything. That puts the average for this episode a 4.2.
All right.
Yep. That actually rates higher than last episode, which was a 4. Yeah. So, we're trending upwards so far.
We are indeed.
But yeah, that is about it. Oh, here's my note. We gotta credit PJ.
Yes, we give PJ all the credit. He is wonderful, and they really take good care of us.
Yes. So thank you for editing, PJ.
Thank you, PJ.
If we sound good enough to you, you can check out his work in the demo reel. We'll put the link to that in the description.
For sure. Definitely check them out. They do a really good job. And yes, I'm biased, but I'm also speaking from someone who would not trust people easily because of my past, and I trust them completely.
Yep. All right. And then now we go into the social medias. So between this episode and the last one, which won't matter to any of you because we're pre-recording these to get a bunch stockpiled up. But by the time you hear this, you can check out our Twitter, while Twitter still exists, at DodgeItCast. If you want to contact us directly, we've set up a Gmail called dodgeitcast@gmail.com. If you're hearing this on the YouTube, you can also hear it on most podcast platforms. And if you're hearing this on a podcast platform, you can check us out on YouTube if that would be easier for you.
Yeah, whichever one is more convenient for you guys.
Yep. And I have not finished setting this up, but by the time this comes out, I'll have a whole link tree in the description where you can find all of these. That's about it.
All right, cool.
Yep. I feel a lot better about this one, to be honest. I got the notes and everything better organized. The segments and stuff and the intros and outros I actually wrote down this time. So hopefully we'll keep this trend up, and
we can only get better and better and more comfortable. For me, mostly, because I don't mind talking and all that, but Will's the one that set everything up, and that's why I'm letting him take the lead, because I'm the one that always takes the lead in things, and I want him to have this moment, because this means a lot to him, and he means a lot to me.
Yeah. With that, I guess this is goodbye.
Bye.
See you next time.